Hello and welcome. Welcome to our Arts and Activism lecture. I have the pleasure to introduce Marie Sester, who is a French artist living here in Los Angeles. And today she will talk about her work that emerged actually from her background in architecture. She's interested in surveillance, but not in a typical kind of way that surveillance is addressed usually. She has exhibited internationally and our paths have crossed occasionally. Recently she had residencies at the Institute of Advanced Media Studies and Sciences in Japan, IBEAM in New York, Cal Arts, and she's received grants from organizations such as the Creative Capital Foundation, New York State of the Arts Council, and the Franklin Furnace Fund. This is all New York-based, really important art agencies. She's been mentioned in many academic works, and what's particularly interesting to me about the way Marie approaches surveillance is the way she does it in an ambiguous way and not trying to preach, and yet emotionally involves the audience. So her work I have experienced her work, and I can say that it can truly be disturbing, where you walk in and you walk out and there's a shift in your kind of chemistry and emotions and physical being. And so I'm really happy to have Marie talk about under surveillance, transparency, visibility, war, and fame. Please welcome Marie Sester.
Thank you, Victoria. As you can hear quickly, I have an accent, and to make sure that the conceptual part of my work will be understood, I prefer to read it. It will be short, and then I will go freely describing my work. So bear with me for 2 little pages, and then it's. Also, if you don't hear me very well or don't understand, please just interrupt me and ask me to repeat or say it in other words, because my English is not as fluid as I wish it would be. It could be. So, for many years now, I have been fascinated by the beauty of various surveillance representations, as well as the loss of individual freedom that these technologies generate. The beam of light that technologies of vision cast upon the world is also always the line of sight for a weapon with which to destroy what the beam presents as its objective, its target. The merging of these technologies of vision and of destruction results in our military entertainment complex. We, citizens, consumers, gamers, or webcammers, are targets. We are driven by advertisement, entertainment, gaming, fashion, and war. Another of my fascinations has been the notion of transparency. Transparency has become a fundamental value notion in political, economic, and media discourses. Included in its values are those of information and communication, control, and surveillance. Transparency, in divulging itself, attempts to take over the invisible. Everything is visible. Going from clarity to clarity, what has disappeared is not the visible, but the invisible. In other words, this is all that is considered incorrect. Transparency as a democratic belief and value is a new figure of visibility. Transparency is the name given to the control of visibility, and surveillance is a technique that Western world enterprise developed to control the quality of transparency. A mirror, for example, is a means of transparency in the way that it reflects objectively what comes into its view. However, transparency as a concept and word is now in widespread use, mainly to hide some opposite activities, and has become a way to produce opacity. Furthermore, transparency also represents individuals caught up in a web of self-exposure and self-surveillance that is indicative of a larger cultural political phenomenon. This phenomenon is expressed in YouTube, Flickr, Facebook, and or games like Second Life, among many more. I'm now more and more combining these two ways of viewing, seeing and being seen. On one side, surveillance, control, monitoring, propaganda. The other side, visibility, celebrity, self-exposures, and self-promotion. A huge ambiguity confuses the two of them, and this serves the purpose of power game of the underlying Western culture, ideology, and politics. Surveillance has a two-way action path, as much as I understand it. It retrieves information like tracing, tracking, metadata networking, or information destruction, etc. And it inputs propaganda, what matter its target shall follow, what we shall think, how we shall vote, what we should consume, etc. Surveillance and transparency are powerful tools that take over minds and individual autonomy. Guy Debord used the word détournement, which I would really translate as ways of destabilizing the predominant value system. Debord took already existing data and put them into a different context. My work is based on such theoretical historical theories. My work is not making a statement about surveillance, subjection, or manipulation. It intentionally stays on the edges between playful and scary to reveal the underlying perversion. So my aim works to create a distance between the commonplace, all that we take as a given without questioning it, and our inner space. This distance, this gap, induces people to think by themselves and therefore to question their everyday personal commitments. I would like now to show you 4 of my recent works. Probably start with Access, the oldest of them, and just a brief quick sentence about it, and then it will tell you much more than my words by watching this short video. Access is an interactive installation that lets web users track individuals, anonymous individuals in public places by pursuing them with a robotic spotlight and acoustic beam system. Okay.
You are so great. You look fabulous. There are 50,217 people watching you online right now. Are you at your best today? Are you at your best today?
Ja, was, aber auf die Liste von Fragen oder?
This is the web interface. So here you are.
Step forward, please. Forward. Step forward. Show some identification, please. Step forward and show some identification, please. Step forward. Forward. Step forward. Can you just stand a little straighter? Okay, this is your moment. This is your opportunity. Just do what you want. And please do entertain us. Perform. Nice. Nice. Move forward. Move. Move. Hey, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? It's good to see you. Very good. You look good now. Great. You're fabulous. Please step forward. Walk around. Now walk backward. There are 30,218 people watching on the web right now. Hey! Great. Just do what you want. Go ahead. Don't try to escape. Don't. People are watching you. You're watched by 2,613 people on the web right now. Do you feel lucky? Your hair. Your hair's, Fix your hair. Fix your hair, yeah. Better. Better. Watch yourself. Please move around here. Perform for us. Do whatever comes to mind. This is your moment. You're under the light. We're watching you. You're being watched by 744 people right now. Do you feel lucky?
This, sorry, this recording was done at Ars Electronica in 2003. Access was shown at SIGGRAPH just before and then has toured a little bit. It's at the moment installed permanently at the KM where, in fact, you can go online and track people there in Karlsruhe. They have 9 hours ahead of us, so this means that in Los Angeles we either can get it late at night or early morning. But if you want to try it, it's up and running. Oh, please.
just curious, so the ZKM site is online, it's live. Is the camera and the tracking 24/7 even if it's dark and nobody's there?
No, exactly. I'm sorry, I expressed myself wrongly. You can go on track during opening hours of the museum. And this is 5 days a week, but during our night, yeah?
No, I got that. So
9 hours
I'm
difference.
curious how the museum is handling it. So they turn it on during museum hours.
Yes,
and, then it's turned
of
off.
course they stop it. I can
So
quickly.
you can't track the guards at night.
No, this is not right now. I cannot show you, but this is.
That's where it would be really interesting.
Yeah, too bad because it would be.
Exactly. Do you record these? Do you actually document them, or is it live and it just doesn't go anywhere?
I haven't had the time yet. Sure, that's a good idea. Because, of course, that's a very good idea. Thank you, Victoria. For now, most of the time what I see is just this. And you see that there's the house indicated with the GMT time for us or whoever in the world, because you can do that from Africa or Asia. And what you find is this, and at the moment, you won't get it because, because we are off hours. So,
To have a sign saying museum closed.
oh, it is. It's. Oh yeah. Yes, I agree. Thank you. Another thing to do. I shall take notes. It's a great place here. Thank you so much. Please.
Was the you select the target and then you're not actually following it, then the computer then follows it for you?
Yes, there are rules, and this is what I like almost the most to do once I have an idea of what I want as a project, and then setting the rules internally of what's going to happen there. The rule here is that the web user can choose the person by clicking on this grid it's more abstract. If I go fast, I can show you. So this is the interface, and here this is a zone where you can really click. At the moment you see this circle, which is the light beam, which is here, and somebody is being tracked. So it tells you how many people are in the space, how long they are there, how long the target has been tracked. Once the target leaves the tracking zone, and that's the condition, then all other people become available. The difference with that, here, that's the target in the light, and these little crosses are other people available once this person has quit the zone, which he doesn't know where this zone is. People don't know. It's made for public places. Of course, once you enter Ars Electronica or such as a KM lobby, even if it's before the counter where you go and pay your ticket, you still already know you're in a museum or an art context. So it's not really what a real public place yet. It's been in Japan once, but a real public place, and you can see how people are very much more, their behavior are different. It's also cultural. But the rule is then only once the target has left this zone that you can pick somebody else. But you are not able to follow this. It's much more. The tracking, computer vision tracking system is not allowing this yet. And the audio track, there is an audio beam that is calibrated with the audio spotlight, with the light spot, and both follow the same person, and only this person hears the voice talking to her. Nobody else in the space. And the web user doesn't know that there is audio triggered at the same time. So they are in a non-communication loop on some level, a gap there that I intentionally put in. I'm really happy if any questions or yes, please.
I had a quick question about the audio.
Mm-hmm.
Is the audio pre-recorded or is it being read live? Because it doesn't sound like it's a text-to-speech, and there are certain things like the number of people watching that's very contextually sensitive.
Thanks. These are all pre-recorded tracks, and my choice was there at some point. I could technically have a voice over, how do we say that? Over the voice over VOC, don't remember the technical word, where people could use their computer and talk to these people in real time, as well as they are tracking them. But my problem was there are all kinds of people out there, and I can't be responsible for being people trashing other people or insulting, or you don't know what they were going to say. So I preferred not to go into this, and but technically it would have been feasible, and I was looking into it, but stepped out. So yeah, of course, 2,500 people watching you right now. I don't know. The information shows it, but usually it's not as many people. Sure, no, please. I very encourage you all to ask.
The audio is in English, and these places are outside of English-speaking countries that you're showing the exhibit. Was there a reason for choosing to have the audio in English?
Mm-hmm. I started this project. It took some time, really in France, and then in San Francisco. Then I had this residency in Japan. So I saw that the language, it's like that. It's mainly done by the internet, the web, and all this digital world now we are in. The language that everybody is closest to is English. For the best or the worst. If I did it at the camp, we recorded partly in German. But then if I use these tracks and move this installation somewhere else, which can be Korea, what would people understand about this German part of the language? Or if I did in French, I would lose probably more audience than just sticking to English for now.
But isn't there a certain significance of having it in English with the whole military kind of connotation
exactly.
of the...
And this is, sorry to interrupt you, it's exactly part of what I'm doing, which is considering our Western world and what we are putting in the whole world, and how the propaganda, not to say imperialism, is spreading so fast and all over, and well, quite deeply. So that's part of it, and the other part is the ambiguity that has been generated slowly but surely, and in between military and entertainment, to confuse two main things, being under surveillance or being in the public eye. They use the same tools for both, the same technology. So this is where the point, where I am on the edge here, I hope so at least. What I'm really seeking doing through my work is this point where it's undecidable if it's scary or fun. And it's each person's experience going through it, how she feels, how she reacts to it, to reconsider how her personal commitment in her life. Though some people dance, you saw, or try to attract it, absolutely. They want to be in the public eye, they want to. And some run away and shout. And culturally, there is a difference. For example, in Japan, I can show you, but I don't know if you have time for that. Maybe at the end, or if you have time. But people would just walk like, no, nothing happens to me. And then when the light goes off, because they are out of the tracking zone, they'll stop, turn around, wait for somebody else to be tracked and observe what's going on. And this person would have similar reaction. So it's quite interesting to, would be another work to do, to collect different subculture and reactions regarding that. It would be, if it could tour on in major countries. I don't know if you have other questions regarding access, or if I should continue with another rule. Continue. Thanks.
I have a question.
Yes?
What's the difference between, or how do people react? Sorry, question is, what's the difference in how people react between being observed by an unseen eye versus being observed by the people around them? Like, if that space is crowded versus if it's one person, do people behave differently? Because the spotlight, in a way, seemed like what you were talking about was more attention.
Yes.
Public attention versus surveillance. And there's a difference, right?
The audio tells them that they are watched by so many people online. But they say, they see that people look at them in the space. It's a combination of both. It's like putting on top of one on top of the other. So I don't know if they distinguish anything. I'm just asking myself right now, here is a public, and I was told it's also recorded, and I don't see these people, and I forgot about them. So maybe even hearing, well, there are 20,550 people watching you online right now. Is it more important than the people just around you? I'm not sure. My experience right now would tell me it's more impressive to have a few people in front of you or around you in the real time than this in the air, wherever people so-called watching you, maybe somewhere. It's also about how much fake or how much trust you can have and what the quality of attention of the people. Here, the others on the behind the computer. It's like, I really don't know the answer because it must be personal. Some people might be triggered by hearing 20,000 people are watching you and feel even more like, I want to be seen, or run away even faster. That's possible. But my experience right now, so all I can tell you is that people right here in the present space closer and more probably effective as an experience. So I would love if I should be able to ask people who have experienced it around another questions that I should take a note as for. Thank you. Any other question? Okay, we have to move on. Red box. Fretbox.us is an interactive installation with a live web surveillance interface in which a movie frame attacks visitors via robotic video projector and computer vision tracking system. This is the most violent work I ever did. It's in reaction to our environment that's increasingly aggressive, but it seems that's turned into fun, into entertainment, and that nobody notices anymore a difference between a game and war, though I did this. This projection is moving. Oh, it's not interesting. Sorry. This moving a robotic projector moves in a scripted manner on the wall and waiting for somebody to approach, being detected. At that moment, it changes into a spotlight that comes onto the person very swiftly with a loud, threatening sound. Already the audio is very aggressive and violent, as well as all the scenes which I took from, I constituted a database from pop culture, American movies, animations, TV shows, TV news, video games, war games, and took the most violent clips. We recreated a audio by itself, and then this moving movie on the wall attracts people to, because it's weird, and when they are detected, they are caught, like under attack for a few seconds only, and then the light goes back on the wall and the movie continues. This is about seeking the question of the ideological offensive of the military combining with entertainment, and how we forget about what violence is, in fact, and how war can really kill. And I see that the reactions were weird. I didn't expect that people would laugh, for example, once they get into this loud audio and attack. Most of the people are friends, and you can see people doing this. And some, this was in Spain, Laboral, some laugh. And my understanding, after questioning what happens to them, is that they're probably gamers and people who go watch these movies all the time in theaters or on their computers, and just for the first time are really taken as a target, and feel, but because the audio is very powerful with subbuffers and it's immersive. It's a 8.1 channel audio. So it's really that you get it like a bomb into yourself. And they felt happy with that and tried to get it more and more. Though you never know. Once more, I think this is where the point of the ambiguity can be reached. And it's not for me to decide what people should think. I have no message. I just want to reach this moment where it's undecidable. It's the ambiguity of what surrounds us. So Fredbox premiered last spring in Spain, and was just shown in Stockholm at Farfabriken. It just ended there. And it's going to other countries later this year. Do you have questions about Fredbox?
I'm struck by kind of how different the two pieces seem in a way. In some ways, they're very similar, Threatbox and Access, that they both deal with surveillance, they both deal with tracking and motion and kind of putting people in the spotlight in an installation space. But they seem to me to have really different messages in how you read them, I think, or at least how I'm reading them. I really like Access in the sense that there's such a really beautifully subtle message there, and I think the decision to connect it with an online site that allows people to track, to decide who's being surveilled, is really powerful in that you're kind of, the way I'm reading it is that you're showing that surveillance isn't about some sort of hidden, X-Files bad guys out there necessarily surveilling us all the time. That surveillance exists because we allow it to exist, and we're kind of caught up in this mode of surveillance. It seems more akin to like Michel Foucault's notion of a sort of internalized surveillance that we as a culture, for some reason, tolerate or even further ourselves, and whereas with Threatbox, I kind of have a reading more of the fact that it's automated. There's no other individual human subject on the other end of that controlling it, and the fact that the content is much. It's not just a beam of light. The content's much more politically loaded. I feel that the message there is really more about kind of power structures, like some very specific power structures exercising a kind of surveillance on us, and kind of maybe even trying to sell and market us as sort of surveillance. And I don't know if you see it, if there's an intentional difference there, or if I'm just reading it different from, because I really liked the kind of, for me, access speaks more powerfully in a way about what our culture does to itself. I think you also get that with the second one, but it seems slightly different to me. I don't know if you could respond to that.
Thank you. I was at some point aggressed myself by the environment and this violence, and the reaction of the people, the consumers, to run into all these games and movies and TV shows, news, and enjoying them. So I felt aggressed. I can't anymore look at that, and wondered why. And so I totally understand that access is more elegant and subtle, but I wanted Threatbox violent and aggressive, and it took of me. I mean, I'm happy it's done. Usually I'm not working in this kind of, with this kind of material. Once a work is done, the goal is not to do a similar one, at least in my case. I try to shift, refresh, or so. So this time I had also a trouble with, and have still, with interactivity. I was questioning interactivity at the same time, doing Threatbox, and intentionally didn't want anybody being able to react, to answer, or put input to anything, because in these circumstances of this violence around us that's transformed into fun, what can we do? Who allows us to answer? Except of not going and consuming. But doesn't look like. So what's our freedom over here? It's why I wanted to limit this work, not to limit, to circumscribe it, to inscribe it into a non-possible answer to this. So it's intentional, and it's putting this question in the air. I know the difference between the two, and wanted to shift. Don't know if that's a satisfying answer. What was the question? So I moved to Beam. Will be a little bit different again. Beam will use the same database, which is huge. I spent more than a year collecting, ripping DVDs. And, but this time, and as you know, was once you have a database of clips, you can do editing non-stop. It's always different. So Beam introduces it's a spatially interactive immersive installation which displays visuals from a database of American pop culture and offers the visitor control over iconic characters that are very popular via video game parts within our increasingly treacherous media background.
His sufferings and his glorious triumph over the grave that we celebrate during this joyous Easter season.
I would have to say that when he died, Jesus stopped breathing, and his heart stopped beating, and his brain stopped functioning, as well as all of his weight. In time.
I would like to demonstrate a practical use of the circle machine. This is a power operation. The opposite to me, which is a very useful.
You know, wasn't it worth something once, George? I mean, didn't people use gold for money?
Sure, about 100 years or so ago. What is, by the way, manufactured?
You know, wasn't it worth something once, George?
than yours. The water level drops below the plate.
This deeper crater?
That's characteristic.
HMX and D&D.
BIM is a project video on 3 walls, the ceiling and the floor, and it's very immersive. There are 3 game parts available for the public to insert 3 characters that came out with discussions with Mackenzie Walk in New York, who wrote the Game of Theory lately, or the Hacker Manifesto. And the 3 characters are Charlie Chaplin, Wally Coyote, and Super Mario. The 3 of them come from totally different backgrounds, I mean, media, movie, animation, and game. And what they have in common, the 3 guys, are that they are not no Superman. They are no killers. They don't do power games. They're just like us. They deal with the world as it comes, and they can be getting in trouble any second. Well, it's raining today, or have a headache, or the roof falls down. And that's the world, that's life. What we see in the background is the winners, the stars, the super killers. And this time, where I wanted to create the distance is that to allow people to insert these 3 characters into these treacherous and scary backgrounds to create this distance. Feel closer to these characters and maybe sense or measure what the background is showing, and which is our normal environment, or the one that we should be thinking of being normal. So that's the contrast I wanted to create. And BM seeks to point out the political intoxication of us versus them, and mentality that is gaining prevalence as the lines between between entertainment and portrayal of military combat quickly vanish. This could open a way for feeling a broader air around us, or maybe providing a space for rethinking of large-scale, long-term cultural forces in reference of the daily lives of individuals. BIM is planned to premiere at the Seoul Biennale in September. And for now, what you saw is just a preview. So it's It's not a real piece because it's fake and it doesn't move as much as I would like, as it will be moving. So it's not a documentation as such of an installation yet. Just so you know that normally it's not the result I hope BIM will give at its final state. It's ready to go, by the way. Do you have questions about BIM?
Does it have an online aspect?
This one doesn't at all. So this time I did escape that one. I'm preparing another one that should be online, but later. I will show you fourth and last work, which has this time a small scale, but is as complex. It has been as complex to do as the others. It's called Mirror, and it's a surveillance vanity mirror which detects presence and follows a detected person so that her face is always in its center. It's coming. Mirror faces a moving observer by panning and tilting so that the observer is constantly facing the mirror. It has also a tracking system and sensors in it. It's very short. Yeah. The usage of the mirror is perverted. It's just a normal object, I mean a consumable. And it's no longer a static piece of reflective glass where you can see your image, but an interactive eye which is following you. To show you a little bit more, because this is, I know, very short, I would like to show you the experiment. It's done, it's been shown at and sold at yes, please. But I don't have much documentation on it yet. It's to be made in a series of collectibles. Come on. And here you will recognize maybe somebody. It's Perry Hoberman. You will see him better later. He worked on it, and this is the final state in his studio in New York. Now he's moved back. Yes, of course, because he did. He took it over from somebody else. It was pretty advanced, and this person was like stuck at some point, and Perry accepted to take over. So it doesn't show up as a collaboration because I hired him, but I must say that he was prominent, I mean, in achieving it. And mirror does, it's silent. But, and this is what the mirror sees. So he found a way to put the camera. Okay, mirror already has a camera in it, but of course. So if you go on your knees, no, it is not. It's just following people. From this view, Perry put a camera on top of the mirror, the mirror itself has already a camera and 3 ultrasonic sensors to detect presence and to follow, to measure depths and to follow the people. If you bend on your knees, it goes down. If you approach, it moves, and it follows you to keep you in its center. Yes, to demo. Yes, so he tried many things. He's really great. He's really great. I mean, he struggled with the fees, and he was quite happy at this point. It's final now, and he was also happy to be done with it, I guess. Okay, so it runs sometime. It's on YouTube. He put it on YouTube if you want to see it. This is where I'm showing it to you. Absolutely. Yeah, I can show you a quick recording from it's. Yeah, I don't know how to stop that here. Okay. Yeah, it's really great. It premiered, in fact, at IBM for their 10th anniversary, in last May. And this was on Gizmodo. So it's whatever it is. There were many people, but. So it this is probably the best I can show you now for now of Mirror, how it works and performs. I wanted to make some smaller scale, but as I told you, it took as much time and it's as complex as a big installation. I have 2 other projects on the work in smaller scale like that. So, questions about Mirror?
It seems like there's an irony in this piece because it could be sold as a product, which it seems in a weird way you're finding this space that you did in your larger works, that this unambiguous space that then you can watch people behave.
Yes, it is a collectible. It will be done in this edition. But at the same time, Access as well as Fredbox as well as Beam also are intentioned to be a small edition that's sellable. And one is now at ZKM. SF MoMA is interested by one, and one will be installed in the UK this spring. So that's pretty new. For now, I haven't had anything. I didn't know I had anything to sell. It was not at all in the mind that such like installations like Access also could be bought. Who would? And it seems that something is opening. So if that can help you, I mean, some of you, it's just. It goes slow, but I wanted to demonstrate myself that I was able to do something smaller. It was like caught in this huge thing, and it took me time. But now it seems like it's more affordable to me.
So all of the pieces involve motion control in some way, and I think the meaning of that motion I totally understand. In all but the beam piece, I understand the pairing of the imagery with the characters, all that symbolism, but I didn't understand the image moving around the room. I didn't understand what part that played in the piece.
It's the irony of a game, though. This image is almost non-stop moving. Well, it has rules how to move. Very drastic. And it's like a choreography. The thing is that when you have your gamepad, each station, there are 3 of them, is dedicated to one character. Each character has its own leitmotif, its own audio that superimposes the background audio. And when there are the 3 of them, the 3 leitmotifs combine very nicely. There's oops, I forgot what your question was. I was going to the idea. Yes, the moving image. Okay, so the irony is it's a non-typical game. It was also made. Hey, what's that? What are these fun? I'm missing vocabulary here. Hip or hype. About around and this business of games and this trend or deeper cultural new outcome that are games. And here you are with the background, which is normally what you have on your screen. The landscape of your game is non-stop moving, and you don't know where it's going to go. And you have to insert your role as a gamer, your play, is to insert your character in this. And you have choices between behaviors, a variety of behaviors. Let's take Charlie. He can be dancing, he can be like lost, he can be with his arm in the air and things like that. And you can choose its size, big, small, within the background, and its location, up, down, right, left, etc. So you have plenty of things to deal with, but at the same time, you never know where this picture goes. So, and the background changes all the time. So it's kind of atopic games, nothing to win, and there is no real purpose on it except of surprises. And I was myself surprised how more fun it was than I expected. Fun meaning discovering. It's refreshing all the time. It's something that makes people laugh at the end because suddenly something weird happens between the background and what you quote, how by chance your figure was set into it. So, and you can try again and again, and maybe it's nothing really nice happens for 2 seconds. Suddenly something like, oh, just for half a second, and then goes away again. So that's the reason of having all these moves and robotic in beam.
The one theme that goes through all your work is the critique of American culture, which is very obvious. But what I'm curious about is your choice to live in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's very important. I I was attracted by Asia and philosophy over there. And I practiced, and I still continue. Went there in Japan 2 times, but one time really into a temple. I mean, I had a residency in Kyoto in '93, and then I managed to go into a temple and stay there for some time. And it came to a point where I understood that I would never become an Asia. I would never be able to turn my mind into the understanding of this other world, or the mind, or the brain. My brain was Western molded. No way to get rid of that. One only thing I thought would be worth it, instead of struggling against it, was to look at it. So I started going back home and look at it, look at my house. And I did a work that was not shown here, called L'architecture du paradis. If I have to translate, but it's not really correct, it would be the paradise of architecture. No. The architecture of paradise. It's always reversed. The architecture of paradise. It was looking back 5,000 years when the Western world started. I obviously think, and it's obvious that France is part of Western world. Though that's not the American totally only problem. Though I looked back and did this work which involved 5 cities. The main cities that constructed or built up the Western world started in Mesopotamia, Babylon, then went to Jerusalem with all the Jewish culture and the Bible, etc., the religions, Christians too. Then Greece, Atlantis. All these cities are fictional. Yeah, Babylon, Jerusalem is this stone that appears, and the more it approaches, the more it goes away, with the pearls and the gates, the 7 gates. Atlantis was invented by Plato. Was in the first sentence located within 2 different places. On one side, it was under the desert somewhere under Ethiopia, and the other place at the same time was under the Atlantic, St. Darul. Then, for me, I questioned, what about Rome, Vienna, London, Paris? None of those were strong enough as architectural and cultural. The next shift for me was New York, and this was done before 1940, just after the First World War. New York was definitely the main center for Western world. And then I was looking for next. I went to Los Angeles. I went to, that was in '97, Las Vegas, things like that. Of course, I didn't expect to find paradise, because the Western world is also always.
Unless you go to Orange County.
Thank you, I have to go there.
It's another day in paradise.
Okay, took a note.
Do you see Los Angeles as the next center?
Not at all. No. And as you know, Las Vegas is called hell on earth. I knew that paradise, which it's a city, I called it paradise. It's starts with a tomb. We see the picture of a tomb, and the movie goes zoom out from a tomb. They just wanted to say that one of the goals of Western world is to create a paradise, to build paradise, yes? Where we are all happy, wealthy, healthy. This is the goal. We always want to do that. It's not sure we go to this result at all. But New York brought me there, and then Silicon Valley. And I had an exhibition there, and that's more private life. I met my husband there, and this is why I'm living here now, especially in LA, because he took a position in LA. My city would be New York, if I had a choice in the States. But I wanted just to be where the Western world is located now, and this is why I'm in the States. I'm not sure it will last long. Well, I cannot predict anything. Who am I to say this kind of stuff? But usually civilizations, cultures have a time life, and then some other comes up. It's alive. But for now, it's still here. And I have no problem with that. As I said, I'm not supporting it. I'm not wanting to kill anybody, I mean, or to destroy the world. But I just know that I was born in it and have to deal with it. So I try to do it my best or my own way. Maybe I cannot do it any other way.